Hi everybody, I'm Lee and this is Geekshow Tabletop, as you can see from the shiny letters right there on the screen. A long-time viewer of the Geekshow Podcast, or I should actually say a long-time listener, Chad, wrote in this week to ask a couple of questions about a quandary he finds himself in a very, very short period of time. I'm going to paraphrase things. Chad asked, since he has his first D&D game ever coming up this coming Sunday, what he could do to find a miniature that he can represent his character for in his first ever D&D session. He wanted to know if there were some local options as far as stores that have pre-painted D&D miniatures. There are a few options, and I'm going to go through those. So first, let's get to the subject of local painted miniatures. This is where things get a little bit difficult. If you're lucky, you may know somebody who is a commission painter, and if you were able to get together the necessary parts for a character, in Chad's case, he's playing a dwarf who has a crossbow and a small hand axe and brewing supplies and likes to nap. Those parts shouldn't be too hard to come by for somebody who is an avid miniature customizer. There are pieces of miniatures from a whole host of games, including multi-part kits that would allow you to build just about anything you would like, including miniatures from Joseph McCullough's fantastic Oathmark game. These are multi-part plastic kits made by North Star Games, and they come with just about all of the prerequisite pieces that you would need to make just about any adventurer. Now, the nice part is you can get about 20 of those dwarves for roughly $30, depending on where you buy them here in the United States. And there are online stores and retailers that you can find on eBay that would probably be happy to sell you just the pieces themselves. There are also local gaming stores in just about every city that sell loose, out-of-the-package, pre-painted miniatures. In some cases, you may even be able to find an adventurer pack that has exactly what you're looking for. The paint options on these miniatures are not going to be the very best, but they'll do in a pinch. The other option is to find a local commission painter. The problem with this is you will be paying for the miniature and you will also be paying for the price of painting those miniatures. I myself was a commission painter for quite some time, and I would charge anywhere from $25 to $50 for a single miniature, just depending. And I was about average as far as paint skills were concerned. Some of the better miniature painters I know are going to charge between $75 and $100 just to paint up a miniature for you to your specifications. But it's yours, and it's exactly what you were looking for. There's another online option that'll get you just about the miniature you're looking for. I mean, down to clothing, costume, posture, poses, everything. But that will take a little bit of time to get to you. The other option that I personally love is paper flats. You can find paper flats of just about every kind of Dungeons and Dragons fantasy character there is. And chances are there is an artist that has a paper flats page available that has all kinds of really cool miniatures that you just print off and fold and bring them to the table. Some folks might feel like it breaks the immersion of the session, but frankly, I think this is the best way to go for people who are just getting into role-playing games and they're not quite sure if they want to put in the money or in the investment. They're already putting in a huge time investment just learning how to play the game in the first place. Let's get back to the online option that I mentioned. There are a couple of online character creation software programs that will allow you to build your own custom miniature. And the best part is, if you have a 3D printer, you can print off this miniature that you created. I should also mention there are plenty of freelance sculptors out there who make miniatures on Patreon, and they may have exactly the character that you're looking for, but you may also end up spending quite a bit of money looking for the right pack. They may not sell those figures individually, and if you don't have access to a 3D printer, you're kind of back at square one in the first place. But let's check out Hero Forge. This is a really cool service that has just been getting better and better by the year. So with Hero Forge games, you can create a custom character that is made literally down to your specifications. This is a dwarf that I put together based off of what Chad told me he wanted his character to look like. He thought that Gimli from the Lord of the Rings movies was the ultimate badass, so I went for the braided beard and kind of longish hair in the back. He's got his keg there showing some brewing supplies and his trusty crossbow. There's so many cool things that I didn't even know were here, and I checked this out like pretty much on a monthly basis. There's a subscription plan that's available that allows you to get credits for multiple miniatures that you could print. And another cool thing is, we're just actually going to start with this guy right here. You can go through and color the miniature, and Hero Forge will actually print it in color and send it to you already colored. Now, there's some issues. Frankly, there's always issues, right, with the way the characters look. Some folks may not like them much because they're very World of Warcraft looking. If you're looking for something that's more grimdark, more serious looking, Hero Forge just isn't going to be the thing for you. But you have so many different, these are the presets. You can actually go through and customize everything. But let's go for something a little more Gimli-ish looking. Let's get the red beard in there. He's got some green eyes, but if we wanted to, we could get in there and change things up. There's always some custom options available. And let's get into his clothing options. There's a bunch of presets in there as well. So he's a first level character, so chances are he's not going to be into anything too terribly bright and fancy, but that looks good right there. So there you go. It took about 15 minutes to customize the character to the way that I wanted him, and it took a couple of minutes just to click the right presets. If I want to change the pose around, I can go ahead and let's make him a little more trepidatious. We could have him running. He's like, hey, I got the beer and the crossbow. Wah! Here he's looking a little more like stand your ground. You not without my beer, coming nowhere near it. Here's his messianic, I brought the beer and the crossbow. Everybody worship me. This one's pretty good. So yeah, so that's the deal right there that I dig. All right, so let's get into some options here. Now that we've talked about how Hero Forge works, let's see how the base looks. Let's give him a wooden plank base. There we go. So there's our dwarf character. He's got his crossbow. He's got his brewing supplies. Now, if Chad wanted to make this character and print him off, he could go down here to products, and he could say, okay, I want to have color standee, which would make the character a flat piece of two-dimensional plastic. So let's get him there, and it would basically print that off like that. But we don't want that. We're not going to go with that. We're going to go with an actual printed full-color 3D miniature. Okay, colored plastic. So here's the thing. Colored plastic miniature, it's going to set you back $45. And that miniature is going to take a couple of days to print, and it's going to take probably the better part of a week before it gets to you. So Chad, this will not get to you in time for your first D&D game. It's just not going to happen. But it is a cool option if after your first game you're like, I love this. This is the coolest thing ever. I really want to get my character built out in custom plastic. Another option is that you could go over here to an STL download. And the STL download, if you have a 3D printer, it's going to send you the file for you to be able to print the miniature yourself. Or if you have a friend that doesn't mind painting miniatures and has a printer, you can do this. And it's only going to set you back $8 for a miniature that you customized yourself. This is your character the way you wanted it. And it's a great option. I absolutely love this. Another option is, and this is for people who play with virtual tabletops. So I use Foundry VTT. So you could choose for, again, $8, 3D digital file that would allow you to basically send this off to whatever program that you like. They have it set up so optimizations for things like Tailspire, which is like Legos for dungeons. If you haven't checked out Tailspire, it's amazing. You could lose hours just building fun things in that. So other options, I'm not done yet. I mean, we're looking at, right now we've been playing with this thing. We still haven't even spent $1 yet. So now we're going to go to the camera booth, which gives us even more options. Again, this is going to be for people doing digital D&D, but it also gives you an option if your characters can be represented by tokens. Now, a lot of dungeon masters don't mind using tokens on their tabletop because it's a pretty simple and inexpensive way to get all of the characters represented. Because really all you're looking for is combat order and placement in your combat. Some folks really want that immersion that you get from a table full of miniatures, but if you're just looking for combat order and placement and proximity to villains and making sure people aren't in the line of fire, tokens are the way to go. So let's check out the booth. All right. So the booth is just going to give you a flat background so that you could superimpose this onto whatever background you wanted. But say I want to give him, let's put him in a dark alley backdrop. Okay, cool. Now, here's something that is awesome about this. If I wanted to, I could capture this right here with this little camera button, and I've got a digital picture of this character that I can put on my D&D Beyond character sheet. Okay, say I can't draw a picture, or I don't have any friends that are good illustrators, or I don't want to use any digital files because it's not my character that I created. Well, here I can take care of this. I'm not sure if this is free for people who are just checking out the site. I have a subscription to Hero Forge, so it may be that this is something that's just been activated for me, but still, I can hit capture and it's going to take a picture of my character. Here it is. He's saved. I can download it. He's set for me to use as my backdrop picture for my character sheet. I can say to all of the other players in the campaign, hey, cool, here's Durfendel the dwarf. He's fantastic. Check him out. We can also change our lighting. So we want to change it so that the light of day is, oh, he's underlit now. Let's change the sun rotation so that it's behind him and it's darker. Let's get the intensity turned down. So that's super cool. Let's check out a couple more things we can do. So we've got our portrait for our character, which is just fantastic. Now, again, if you don't like the cartoony nature of this, it's not going to work for you. But if you're looking for a way to allow your characters, or if you're a new player and you haven't spent a lot of time and money on miniatures, or you don't have access to good portraits for your characters, this is fantastic, and it's really inexpensive. I'll get into pricing here in just a second. So now we can look at token options. So this is for people who are playing a virtual tabletop that uses tokens instead of miniatures, which you would be doing with Foundry or a couple other different virtual tabletops. Tokens work really well for those systems. So here's our token options. I can center this. There's our guy. Okay, cool. So we can see his crossbow, or we could change things. Let's move him over here with the right click. Yeah, so we got that. All right, so there we go. There's our token, and I could capture that token, and here we go. That token is captured, and I could just import that to any virtual tabletop, and it's perfect for me, right? So there's a couple other options here as well. So I can take the band off of it and just make it blank. Let's zoom out on him. So he's overhead now. And this gives me an option to do an overhead image of the character that could also be imported into virtual tabletops that like to use a top-down view for their games. And what's cool is I could do this with any number of miniatures that I've designed. So if I needed to design an entire cadre of undead swordsmen, I could use Hero Forge to do so. And again, let's take the image picture, and it's already downloading for me. So that's fantastic. And we can also change the scenes around. So there's my dude. I can move him over here, I can move him over here, I can move him over here. You could probably load multiple people on that. I haven't checked it. Let's put him in a spooky scene now. All right, there he is. Spooky scene. All right, so that just looks so cool. So let's take a look at basic billing in this case. So I've got a pro subscription, and I am paying $19.99 a month for this. That might be steep for some folks, but you do get some credits with that, and those credits allow you to do your digital downloads. I'm not sure on the exact number on that. I'll have to double check the fine print for that. But it doesn't limit you at all with how many characters you can design. So you can design all sorts of characters and save them to your library. And you can do what I just did with tokens and overhead shots. But it doesn't get you that physical miniature by Sunday, Chad. I'm so very sorry. So your best bet, if you're in a crunch, is to call around to some of the local game shops. If you're here in Salt Lake City, you can check out Demolition Games. You can check out Game Night Games in Sugar House. And a lot of times they will have loose miniatures. I haven't been to either store in about a year, so I'm not exactly sure. eBay is also your friend if you can't find a local source. Just look for D&D miniatures and what kind of D&D miniature you're looking for, and then in that parameter, hit the word used, and that will actually pull up everything that's already been pulled out of a package. Because a lot of times, as is the case with games like HeroClix, there are rares and ultra rares that people will pull out of the package and keep, but there might be commons. There might even be a dwarf with a crossbow and brewing supplies that is a common miniature that they're willing to sell for like 99 cents. I do this with HeroClix all the time. I really hope that helped, not only for Chad, but for anybody else out there who's new to D&D or is looking for resources that won't break the bank to populate their virtual tabletops or print up some tokens for their in-person games. If you found this at all useful, please hit that like button. Consider subscribing here to the Geek Show Podcast. It's not just tabletop games. We cover a whole bunch of stuff, and we stream live every Saturday morning at 11:30. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
Writing.